Hey guys, it's Stan here with another video, this time with a quick update on how this brand new build's doing. As you can see from the title already, I'm having issues with Coil Whine, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But so this video is kind of talking about what I plan on doing with this build and how I'm going to be maybe swapping things around for the computers and everything over the next couple of weeks. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Alright, this is a recent build of mine that I completed, I want to say a couple weeks back now, and for the most part it's good. This is a 5950X 16 core processor with a 3090 FE GPU in the EK water block full cover special edition water block. For the cooling, it's got a 280 millimeter radiator with this Ulti2 150 attached to the back, and for the most part, it's been pretty good. The temperatures are decent, and by decent I mean 58 to about 60 degrees on the GPU during gaming loads, and the CPU sits around anywhere from 75 to 85 up to 90 degrees C. Given that it is only a 280 millimeter radiator. That's not the issue. The issue is this GPU right here is having some minor coil whine, and I really do mean minor. But it's driving me insane because most of the time when GPUs are inside cases, they have a little bit of coil whine and you can't really hear it because it's all muffled inside the case. But if I take my mic off and bring it next to the GPU, and just to show you guys what I'm talking about here, I've got World of Warcraft running. I've got a mild overclock up to about 2000 megahertz, pulling 400 watts at 99% utility. I've got World of Warcraft running primarily because I can push about 100 FPS on the game with the 3090. So pulling relatively high FPS. Usually that's where coil whine is the worst, but you can hear hopefully you heard that, because there's just a little teeny tiny bit of buzz. And you know, for the most part, this kind of coil whine for most people is not a big deal, and especially when it's inside of a case, you can't hear it at all. It's virtually what I would call silent, and especially when you have a case to muffle everything, it's great. But when it's a open chassis case like that, it becomes really apparent, and it is so bad to me because, you know, if you're gaming for several hours on end, you hear the buzzing in one side of your ear and not the other, and it's just driving me insane. And it's so particular that if I'll hear it in the normal gaming position, but if I lean back, the sound goes away just because of the angle of where the components are that is vibrating. It is so infuriating because if it weren't for the coil whine, it'd be perfect. And you know, I could turn the case 90 degrees and the coil whine will go away, or it'll diminish quite a bit. But because I need it to sit the exact way it's sitting right now, I have to deal with the coil whine, and I think I'm at my wit's end with this. I really don't want to disassemble everything and try to remount everything. I think I'm at the point where I kind of want to just go back to my old computer with the big, you know, Case Labs TH10A case and rebuild in that and update that instead of deal with this minor bit of coil whine. I know you guys are probably saying I'm just insane, but I probably am getting a little insane with this thing driving me crazy. So, you know, coil whine is pretty normal. You know, it depends on your GPU, it depends on how much power you're pulling, and sometimes more FPS tends to give you more coil whine. And It's especially bad when you're pushing a lot of FPS, pulling 400 watts of power. For the FE edition or the Founders Edition 3090s, it's very prevalent. On my first one, it was actually way worse than this. And for this one, I would say that this is almost as good as you can get, especially with a water block pinching down on both sides of the card, clamping down on everything with those thermal pads on everything. So it's really good already, but you know, good is just not good enough for me in this situation. I need it to be silent, especially when there's only 2 fans in this entire system running at sub 600 or sub 900 RPM. So literally it is the only thing that I'm hearing. Originally, I actually thought that this buzz was coming from the PSU, and I actually replaced this PSU thinking that it was that. But then after I replaced it, I noticed that it wasn't going away. And that's when, you know, you put your ear right up to the GPU and you hear it, but not when you put it up to the PSU, you can't hear it. So it's clearly coming from the GPU. So that's where I end up back with this computer right here. This is, if it's your first time seeing this, this is my TH10A Case Labs Threadripper system. It's been featured on the channel quite a bit here. And the GPU here is a 6900 XT Liquid Devil. I picked it up earlier this year, and I've only had it for, I want to say, a couple months now. But you can see something's going wrong here as well. Now, I don't know if this is galvanic corrosion or if it's just residue rust, because it's kind of peculiar. It's only on the nickel part here, and you can see the tubes themselves, or not the tubes, but the water reservoirs, they're clear water. The tube on the inside is actually stainless steel tubes. So I've always had stainless steel tubes in here, never had an issue, but clearly I'm having some kind of issue here. So it's either galvanic corrosion or residue rust, and I'm actually not sure what it is. So I'm gonna have to tear that down and take a closer look. Up until now, all of my water blocks have been full cover type water blocks, and you can see here, this is, you know, kind of like the CPU. I don't really like plexi water blocks, and my older GPU water block was also a full cover water block. So perhaps I was always getting some kind of residue or buildup or corrosion. I just never really known it. You know, it's been years since I've had a plexi clear water block. I've been using full cover acetal, nickel, full cover blocks that you can't really see the internal nickel parts for almost a better part of a decade. It just always seems like I'm gravitating towards those type of blocks. So anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because I'm gonna have to pull this block, clean it out, and then swap it with something else. And I can certainly swap it with that right there, you know, the 3090 FE water block, or I could swap it with this. This is the FTW3 3090 Ultra GPU from EVGA. You know, I actually finally got my hands on this one because I got on the waitlist back in October or November of 2020, and they finally got around to calling my name. So that's where this comes in. I've also picked up one of these. This is a water block for the FTW3s, and this water block, you know, don't be fooled by the picture here. This is a acetal nickel water block, meaning it's a full cover black front or black bottom actually. That way you don't actually see the nickel part, because I have a feeling if I replace whatever GPU is here and it'll just start corroding again. And I have a feeling that whatever is behind on the CPU block on the inside is also corroded. But you know, it's perfect. The water is clean, out of sight, out of mind. So I'm thinking if I get a full cover block and I can't see the corroded nickel, out of sight, out of mind, as long as it's actually not gunking up the system. Like I said, the water is clear and everything's good. Even if it is galvanic corrosion, I don't really mind if it starts corroding, you know, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, it's still gonna be functional. That's just kind of my 2 cents here. I know it's not best practice, but usually ignorance is bliss, and out of sight, out of mind is certainly bliss sometimes. So that's kind of what I'm thinking that I'm gonna be doing. Anyway, make sure to keep an eye on those upcoming videos. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. And if you can, go ahead and hit that like button, or actually, if you dislike what you're hearing right now, go ahead and hit that dislike button. That works fine too. All YouTube wants is just engagement. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one.